السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله. الحمد لله. الحمد لله خالق الوجود من العدم، وجاعل النور من الظلم، ومخرج الصبر من الألم، فملقي التوبة على الندم. فنشكره على المصائب كما نشكره على النعم، ونحيي رسوله الأكرم ذي الشرف الأشم والنور الأتم والكتاب المحكم وكمال النبيين والخاتم، سيده ولد آدم، الذي بشر به عيسى بن مريم ودعا لبعثته إبراهيم عليه السلام حين كان يرفع قواعد بيت الله المحرم. فصلى الله عليه وعلى أتباعه خير الأمم الذين بارك الله بهم كافة الناس، العرب منهم والعجم. يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you all, and I thank Allah Azza wa Jal for another Friday. Alhamdulillah, the masjid is full today, and I see a lot of the youth, which subhanAllah gives a lot of hope and a lot of feelings, subhanAllah, of responsibility towards those youth. When in every Jum'ah, subhanAllah, we tend to remind ourselves to have taqwa of Allah. And taqwa of Allah is not only, in a sense, fear, and to allow every single one of our actions on a daily basis to remind us that Allah Azza wa Jal is watching us. And that's not only for fear, but it's also out of love, to remember Allah Azza wa Jal loves every single one of us, and that He brings us to His house, the masjid, so that we can get closer to Him, and so that we can achieve our potential, and so that we can do what He asks us to. So inshallah, the topic of the khutbah for today is finding certainty in the age of doubt. And I think this is a topic that every single one of us, from the oldest of us to the youngest of us, can benefit from. And before we dive into it on a personal level, I want to kind of paint a historic or more of a development into where we are today. All of us today, we live in the Western world. And how did this culture and this civilization become what it is today? And it might seem a little bit all over the place because I'm trying to put a lot of history in few minutes. So inshallah, just bear with me. And, my hope is for the younger guys is to really be able to understand some of this stuff and take it with you and try to make it related to you. And so when we look at the Western civilization that we live in today, and every single one of us is impacted by it every single day. We go to their schools and we go in their systems, and some of our brothers now who are converted are also born and raised, and many of us are born and raised here. And so this system is part of us now. And so it's important for us to have the wa'i and to have the understanding of it. When we look at the European history, and the United States is just an extension of that. When we look at that history, you see, in the beginnings, it was very Christian and very religious. And to paint it, just quickly, you see that religion was so important to them, but there was no level of questioning. Anybody who would ask questions, they would be either put in jail or killed, or it would be challenging the church, any type of questioning. And so you found thinkers like Galileo and other people who started kind of coming up with ideas and who started bringing science up. And that, the response from the church was quickly to kind of stop that and to throw them in jails and to kill them and to whatever. And so this was part of their history, this fight between religion and science and thought and freedom. This was part of the early challenges that they had as a civilization. And slowly, through the Renaissance or different things that happen in their history, which is now sadly, or which is now part of it, is our history too. But throughout this, they started challenging the church. And there was this vibe, or this notion of, we don't want to be in these closed doors where any type of questioning, any type of free thought is pushed against. And so there was this renaissance of ideas and of science and of pushing back against the church. And slowly, this developed into this secular mindset where you see religion, sure, it's important, but only on Sundays. And the rest of what's practical life, what's useful life, what's actually going to build. And so this was how the Western civilization slowly started to build. And they achieved a lot. They achieved a lot of infrastructure, a lot of money, a lot of knowledge, a lot of science, and they built themselves up. But what was the shackles that they had to give up? Their faith. Because their faith wasn't equipped enough to be able to go through, these movements, or the way the civilization was moving. And so slowly, they kind of made this concept of secularism, which is basically, in essence, to sum it up for the younger guys, it's basically separating church and state, separating the system where you want to be religious, there's no problem. You can worship whatever you want, but just make sure you don't bring it to the public world. Don't make sure that it doesn't impact anything. So in a sense, it made religion something you can practice on the side, not something that is core. And this slowly started to form. Of course, I'm being very general, and there's so many other details that go in. This slowly started to form into liberalism. And liberalism, in a sense, is idolizing the self, is making the self the center of basically importance, and making one, my feelings, my wants, my needs, as in my internal God. And Allah kind of talks about this in Surah Al-Furqan, and He mentions, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Did you see the one that chose his God as his desires? And so this system, which of course there is some good to it, when it comes down to some of the things that happen, some of the achievements, some of the advancements for humanity, there is a sense of achievement. But when you look at its core, this liberal core, where the self is idolized, where my wants and my needs is idolized, and you move from a system where there's an objective truth to a selective or a subjective truth. So to kind of go deeper into objective and subjective, what does that mean? When something is objective, it's inherently true. An objective truth, for example, 2 + 2 is always 4, regardless of what anybody says, regardless whatever language it is, regardless if somebody's 2 saying it or somebody is a PhD professor saying it. 2 + 2 is 4. This is an objective truth. And we know in Islam, and we know throughout our tradition, that, subhanallah, there is an objective truth that Allah Azza wa Jal tells us this is wrong, because He is the all-knowing of everything. While, a selective truth, which is what's being printed onto us today, which is basically, I feel like it's true, so it's true. So then you start getting all these people who have these crazy ideas, who are, you know what I mean? I feel like a girl, but really I'm a guy, or what, I can't even describe it. Subhanallah. Like, you got people mixing left and right, and you got this stuff infiltrating to our schools. But subhanAllah, these ideas, we kind of need to just understand the core, because on the outside, they try to paint them really nicely. When I was in high school, some of the slogans that we'd hear is love wins. And you would think, like, of course love wins. Like, why not? But then you really dig deep, and I was like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what is normal to my fitrah. This is not what's normal to my heart. But it's because of the essence, the core of the system is idolizing the self. And when you have that, sure, you might get a lot of technological advancements, which is important. But what does it start to develop? I know this is kind of getting, we'll get there. What is it starting to develop? It starts to develop a lot of, people who simply, subhanAllah, become NPCs. I'll explain it like that. Where we just become robots. Where when you start to just prey on yourself and you start to just take care of your needs and your own personal stuff, you will slowly just become a robot, and you will go to school and you will graduate and you'll go to college and to get that degree, and you'll get that degree, and then you'll go to a 9 to 5 and you'll work your job, and then you'll go on the vacations the day you're supposed to go on those vacations, and that's it. You're just another person in a system it's a consumer system. So after liberalism, or through it, comes, this whole concept of consumerism, which is exactly where we are now, where many of us are consumers through this device, subhanAllah, and through even our jobs and our life, where we're not people who have impact, but we are people that being impacted on. We're not people who are making changes, but we are people that, khalas, the situation puts us in a situation, and we're just, we have to accept it. We have to accept the circumstances that we're in. And this type of vibe, or this type of thing, brings a lot of depression, a lot of weakness, a lot of despair, subhanAllah. And that's how you see it. And I'm not going to spend more time going through this, because I know every single one of us has enough baggage and has enough experience with some of this stuff, where we live life meaningless. And this is the result, is that system, right? Praise it, hate it, no hate it, but the truth has to be said. Even though there's a lot of advancement from it, but this is some of the baggage or the results of this system. Now, when we look at our Islamic system to compare, of course, we are not shaped, our history does not look like theirs. And so when you're going through, we never had this rustle between religion and science, religion and advancement. Bil'aks, subhanAllah, we found the opposite. The Arabs back then, they didn't have a civilization. They didn't even have a calendar. Tell me how backward it can be for a civilization not to have a calendar. And in 23 years, those people were standing and ready to fight the Romans and the Persians. In 23 years. And so this is what this message of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam came with. It came to bring people from dhulumat to one nur, to one light, to this light that is the correct system, is one that puts advancements, is one that brings technological advancements. So you see, this was the core of ours, is we are using science and we are using the concept of advancements and knowing and learning to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So these scholars, subhanAllah, you would find scholars where the scholar themselves is a scientist too. He studies physics, and he studied, fulk, he studied the stars, and he studied all this stuff. And at the same time, he knows his actual fiqh, he knows his actual aqidah, he knows all the stuff. He studied, religion and this world, because for us, it was never separate. And we never separated it. And that's why, subhanAllah, you see the advancement into the golden age of Islam. And this golden age of Islam is one where, till today, we see the results of it. But why? Because we didn't put our religion on Sundays. We didn't put our religion for us on Fridays. It wasn't just something on the side. It drove us every day. It drove me to go work. It drove me to go do stuff, to not just be a bot, like simply for the younger guys, to not just be somebody who just does what he's told. But no, it's to connect with the divine and allow that to change me and to change the circumstances. The Islam of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was one that made him, in the beginning, be fought. Can you think of that? Like, why would the people of Mecca, subhanAllah, cause so much harm to the Prophet ﷺ for him to migrate and his people? Was it because he's just saying, I worship one God? It wasn't that. It's because the implications of that. Because when you worship one God, then you cannot see, injustice happen and stay silent. Because now you cannot allow bribery and you cannot allow corruption to stay. Because that's what real tawheed is. It's on the ground. It changes people. It changes civilizations. And this is, subhanAllah, what we need to go back to. But we can't do this when we don't know our history and we don't know who we are. We don't know what we stand for. We don't know how we got built. This is, subhanAllah, and the Muslims, throughout all times, like from every family, there would have to be one scholar. Why? Because they understood the magnitude of this. They understood that knowing Allah, who Allah Azza wa Jal is part of living life. And this is how you're able to have a system that's not going to leave people behind. Our system doesn't leave people behind. It doesn't leave elderlies in shelter homes or in hospitals. No, it takes care of everybody. Because it's what? It's the objective truth. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to be people who follow His message and who are empowered by His message and by His Messenger عليه الصلاة والسلام. أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه يغفر لكم فيا فوز المستغفرين استغفر الله. الحمد لله وكفى ثم الصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على أفضلهم خاتم النبيين محمد الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. So basically this is on a larger scale. So this, if a person is able to reflect on it, this can translate into our lives. But how can we actually, on a personal level, not only use this information, but how can we achieve certainty in this age of doubt? To do that, subhanAllah, we have to understand, where does doubt come from first? There's multiple, levels of doubt that can come. There's doubt that can come from the nafs and from shaitan. And we spoke about this in terms of having the self as the center. That can allow doubt to creep in. And when that's the case, subhanAllah, it is the most, it's the most obvious way, where you see a person, he has no issue with Islam, he has no issue with the religion, with some of the questions that come up. But when does these questions come? One, either they already sinned and they feel guilty. So the remedy of this guilt is what? Well, do I really believe? Sometimes it comes like that. Or when you actually want to indulge in something that you feel like is stopping your nafs. You want to do something that's haram, and you're like, but I don't really know. Like, is this really the truth? And that's that. You know what I mean? This starts to spark where? When your nafs is shaking. When you're weak, when your nafs is weak, it's pushing you. That's when your faith becomes weaker. It's not a sincere doubt, but more it's a reactive doubt. It's a doubt that is caused by guilt or pain or insecurity, really. That's why shaitan, when he tells Allah, he tells him, وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. You will not find the majority of them, meaning us, grateful. Why? Because when you're ungrateful, you are an easy target. You're the easiest target when you're ungrateful. Why? Because shaitan, his strategy is to promise you. So he will promise you, he will tell you, listen. He'll tell you, listen. You want to achieve, you're insecure, you're already not happy. You want to achieve this? Just do this haram thing and you'll do it. You're an easy target when you're not grateful. When you're weak, when subhanAllah, the gratitude is a protection for the mu'min. Because what is he going to promise you with? Allah Azza wa Jalla already promised you Jannah, something way better. But when you're not sure, when you're weak, khalas, any promise will go. Anything to give you that dopamine kick. So slowly, this gratitude, we find people, subhanAllah, even though we have the most amount of physical or materialistic stuff, we are still the most ungrateful people that you can think of. From all of us, from the beginning, this is just we have such a selfish mindset. So this is basically the first layer of doubt that can creep in from the self, where khalas, like I have guilt, so that guilt is gonna form into doubt. When in reality, this guilt is a ni'mah from Allah Azza wa Jal. Guilt, the feeling of something is wrong, I feel unease, this is a blessing that Allah Azza wa Jal put. It's like pain. When you have pain, it's a signal. Something is wrong. I need to change. I need to do something about it. I need to make tawbah. I need to turn back to Allah Azza wa Jal. But instead we do what? We let this pain become like, oh, let me just put a band-aid on the pain. Let me just put a band-aid on the guilt and just go do something else that's going to bring me pleasure. Instead of letting this pain be central and thinking about it, thinking, why do I feel this way? Because this is developing from furthering ourselves from Allah. And just a quick example to show it, subhanAllah. It might seem a little bit too irrelevant. When a child is born, and a lot of them are, they're born, some people are born with flat feet, right? And a lot of times the medical procedure is or the medical concept behind it is give them orthotics, which is like the shoe thing that kind of helps bring up their arch so that they can, get away from the pain or they can walk more straight. Instead, subhanAllah, if you just let that, okay, there's an issue. There's something that is not operating the way Allah Azza wa Jalla intended. Develop it instead of just trying to find a remedy right away. Let, that person to develop his strength, develop the muscles, develop the actual joints so that, subhanAllah, 10 years later, this person can operate normally. Instead, and of course, I'm sure there's many cases. A lot of people have flat feet. But the point is, this concept, even in medical field, it's instead of actually solving the problem, we're putting a band-aid on it. Same thing with our deen. Same thing with our faith. Instead of actually developing, because it's going to be hard. Developing real faith is not easy. It's hard. But how do you do it? Through going through that. Going through a sincere tawbah. Going through the pain. Going through, subhanAllah, the small things. So this is the first layer of where doubt comes from. Then there's the second and the healthy layer of doubt, which is sincere doubt, which is fine. This is what develops real faith. Sincere doubt, where you're questioning, why does Allah, not in an arrogant way, but in a humble way, where you're asking, Ya Allah, I don't understand. Teach me, show me. And this is, subhanAllah, the way Allah Azza wa Jal intends for us to learn. Through these questions, through that. So this is a healthy doubt, where it's a natural one. It's a fitra one, where you actually want to engage with the text. You want to engage with the tradition. So these are the two ways where doubt can come in and creep in. So how do we achieve certainty through all this? How can we gain certainty? Certainty is gained through experience. We have a saying in Arabic. I'll try to translate it. We have a saying in Arabic that ask a person who's went through an experience and don't ask a doctor. And the reason why they use this experience, the saying, it's not to belittle doctors, but it's to show the magnitude of experiences. When you experience something, it feels like it's certain. Khalas. Let's say somebody got bit by a dog once. Every single time a dog walks by, man, I'm not getting close to that thing. Even if the owner's like, he's not dangerous, he doesn't bite. I don't care. I experienced a bite from a dog, so khalas, it's natural now. So we will gain certainty through experiences. So what is how does that manifest with us? Through experiences. Allah Azza wa Jal intends for us to experience His ayat. If you read the Quran, anytime you open the Quran always pushes you back out. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ. Do they not have tadabbur of the Quran? Do they not, engage with the Quran? Do you not walk on the earth? Allah Azza wa Jalla orders you to travel, to walk, to observe the sky and the earth, and to go out. Every time you open this book, it pushes you back out. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla wants you to experience His signs. The translation of an ayah is a sign. So these signs that we have within us, there's ayat in us, and there's ayat in the book, and there's ayat in the kawn, in the world. And to gain certainty is to try to experience these ayat, to try to experience how Allah Azza wa Jalla flips the day and night, and how, subhanAllah, the science of hisab, of math, comes from the day and the night's flipping. So these signs, when we contemplate them for my young brothers and sisters, these signs is what's going to give you certainty. When you see the ayat of Allah Azza wa Jal, you'll slowly build a foundation. Imagine you're building a building and the foundation is weak. right when you might not even get to the second floor. It's just going to crumble. But if you have a solid foundation of experiences that you connect with Allah on a personal level, for example, subhanAllah, like the concept of tawakkul, don't just keep it as a mindful concept. Experience it in your life. You have a problem, put your tawakkul on Allah and see how Allah Azza wa Jalla will just take care of your affair. Then that's a solid experience. I can put this block in the foundation. I experienced a problem, something bad happened in my life. I put my reliance on Allah and I kept pushing. Allah Azza wa Jalla gave me a strength. Now this is a solid experience you can build your foundation on. And now imagine 5, 6 of them. Imagine 30 years, 10 years, for the young ones, 15 years of subhanAllah. I turned back to Allah and He showed me the way. Imagine the strength you're going to get from that. You're going to get a solid foundation that's unshaken. That's not gonna, with all due respect, with people who have mental issues or even depression, this stuff is a protection from this stuff, from these issues. You build that strong foundation, and then whatever problem comes in your life, it's gonna get solved. Of course, it's not all pretty and it's not all easy. It takes work. But this is, subhanAllah, the main idea is that we need to, as a people, learn how to appreciate the signs of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Learn how to appreciate the ayat of the kawn, of the Quran. I know this is so broad. I wish we had more time. We can really dive into it. But this is it. Because we are people, this is how our tradition was built. On seeing these ayat. And this is how we advance as a civilization. And not just, khalas. Our whole life is just to become robots and corporate robots that are just going to make money and eat and pay rent and all that. No, we want to develop ilm, knowledge of the ayat of the kawn, knowledge of the signs of Allah Azza wa Jal. This is how we develop as an ummah. Every single one of us. I will end with this. And this is really sad, subhanAllah. When you look at, when you go to school, you go to colleges, the goal of college became, just to get the degree. You go to school just to get that degree, just so you can get the job, just so you can pay the rent. That's how it become. Where is the appreciation of knowledge? Where is the appreciation of subhanAllah, advancement, of love, of curiosity, of experiences? Unfortunately, that's how it become. That's how we become as a people. So our job as an ummah and as young, because subhanAllah, you guys are on break. This is your chance. Khalas, you're in school. Try to at least, even though I agree, you need to get the degree. Nobody's saying to drop out, but make sure you have a mind. You're not just somebody who follows. Use your brain. Get in touch with your tradition. Get in touch with the Quran and see how now you are a person who moves different. You move different. You're not somebody who follows like a sheep. But you cannot do that if you don't get in touch with Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't get in touch with the signs of Allah Azza wa Jal. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات إنك يا ربنا سميع قريب مجيب للدعوات. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. خذ بنواصينا إليك دلنا بك عليك. اللهم يا كريم أكرمنا ويا رحيم ارحمنا ويا عزيز عزنا. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
استووا واعتدلوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا. وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا. فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا. ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا. إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها. فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وجوهكم وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تتبيرا. عسى ربكم أن يرحمكم وإن عدتم عدنا وجعلنا جهنم للكافرين حصيرا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما. ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا. وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا من اهتدى فإنما يهتدي لنفسه ومن ضل فإنما يضل عليها ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى وما كنا معذبين حتى نبعث رسولا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you want to wait another 6 minutes, we're going to pray Asr, inshallah, if you have the time. Please don't forget your masjid on your way out from your donation. Please, the masjid needs your help. Jazakumullah khairan. Inshallah, this Saturday night, we don't have a lecture. The lecture will be on Sunday night with Sheikh Hassan Abul Azm. He's going to talk about the fiqh of financial transactions after Isha, inshallah. Also, on January 11th, we're going to have a big event here at the masjid. It's Saturday, January 11th at 7:30. We're going to have about civic engagement and empowering the Muslim community in the Malden area. It's going to be a potluck dinner, inshallah. We're going to have Sister Sophia Abdi from the Congresswoman Ilyana Presley's office. Sheikh Muhammad Nabil Islam will be here too, and other people. So please, we need you to come and join us, inshallah, on January 11th. Please spread the word and tell everyone else. Please, Jazakumullah khairan wa barakallahu feekum.